Questions, middle, okay.
When you were doing your reading this morning, I couldn't help but start putting actors into these roles.
Okay.
And nobody cares what I think. Do you ever picture popular television or movie actors in any of your books?
You know what? I don't usually cast my books. I know writers who absolutely have to. In fact, I've got a friend in my writing group who goes and searches through magazines until she finds a picture of a face, and that becomes her character, and she actually cuts it out and keeps it in a folder. I don't usually cast my characters. It's just how I work. With The Way of Kings as an exception, because I wanted it to be a big book and I really wanted to have some things under control, I actually commissioned concept art. And had concept art done for each character that I didn't use anywhere except for me to understand what they look like, and also for pitching it to tour. So you can see that if you want to, but that's most of the time I don't cast my characters.
Have you ever done a fantasy casting of the movie?
I really don't, because you know this is the weird thing. People love to do this, and I'm excited for them to do it. But for me, they are who they are in my head, and no actor's going to match that. And so I'll be fine when someone casts, you know, my characters and things like that. If the movies actually ever do take off, I would be interested to see what the casting director's vision of it is, and I've learned to accept, you know, like with cover art, someone's going to have an interesting interpretation of my character's thing. But they are who they are in my head, and that's not an actor. The closest I can come for wax is a gruffer Rupert Everett. You know, like a harder around the edges Rupert Everett. All right, this section where the questions over here. Oh, yeah, okay. I was gonna say your section is kind of.
Getting back to your original speech, it sounded to me like what you were advocating for was a more critical discourse among people to, rather than just dismissing something outright.
Right.
I'm listening to this feeling kind of confused and conflicted because when I talk to my friends about books, I begin my critical discourse by saying, this is crap and here is why. So I'm wondering if you're talking about a gradient or if there's just something in what you're advocating for that I'm not really understanding.
There is crap out there. I think the crap is very, I think there's much less. The thing that most of the time you're calling crap, and this is going to be a difference, it's okay, but most of the things you're calling crap are something that somebody loves a lot, that an editor loves and that other readers love. And to call it crap means to say they have no taste. And to extrapolate from that, what you're saying is, my taste is more valuable than their taste. I, as an individual, am somehow more valuable than someone who likes this and has different tastes than I have. And that's what I want to get away from. Now, I'm not going to really, you know, you extrapolate that the other way. It's not like I'm saying that you're arrogant for saying that. And I have to be careful to not do that. But I worry about those two steps that we seem to take really easily. When what you're most of the time probably saying is, for instance, I don't know what you are, but my literature professors, they look at the line by line and say, look, using lots of adjectives equals crap, using lots of words instead of said equals crap, using X, Y, or Z type of writing equals crap. Whereas I come back to them and say, these are not things that this writer is focusing on, and these are not things that their readers care about. Their readers care about evocative characters that they identify with. And I would call, you know, say, you know, your essay or your great short story that you just gave me, as characters I don't care about, can't relate to me that is crap. And we are looking at these essays from completely different standpoints. And if I could acknowledge, which I hope that I started to say, you know what, beautiful prose is not something that I really look for. Absolutely, you know, majestic, beautiful prose, I can now appreciate it, but it's not something that I enjoy. That's not my taste. My taste is characters that I love, showing me a new slice of life and world from a perspective that is not my own. That is something I love. And so, for instance, I don't really like James Joyce. James Joyce is all about literary illusions and beautiful language. I've never liked James Joyce. And yet James Joyce is upheld as one of the great writers. I think Finnegan's Wake is just, you know, is baffling that people enjoy Finnegan's Wake. And yet, looking at that as a scholar, I can say, okay, this is what they're looking at, and this is what they love. That means that this is not crap. What this means is, I am looking for something different from my fiction. They're looking something different from their fiction. And when I read a book, you know, like The Wheel of Time, that they would call crap, because Wheel of Time is probably a bad example because Robert Jordan's actually pretty good with language, line by line. But there are a lot of books I would read. You know, Harry Potter. Harry Potter's a great example. Harry Potter, she uses said bookisms out the wazoo. Said bookisms are words instead of said. Great writing advice is, you know, you're supposed to use only said and asked. You're never supposed to say interjected or some of these weird things. She does them all over the place. Literature professors pointed at that and said, this is actually crap writing. In fact, I've read many essays in the New Yorker and the Washington Post. Both of these like to post things where it says, you know, one of the big ones I read recently is, why do people like crappy fiction? By really pretentious literary author. Was writing this essay on why people like Stieg Larsson, and why can't we get them to read really good stuff with why are they reading this crap? Where I'm reading this essay and saying, you're missing the boat. The stuff that you would give them, that you say is wonderful, that you somehow assume that if everybody would read it, they would just love it. They're going to hate. Because they're looking for something different from their fiction than you're looking for. And your value judgment that because it's not what I think, it doesn't have what I'm looking for, therefore it equals crap, is the wrong reason to identify something as crap, in my opinion.
So what is crap?
What is crap? Crap is an author who is attempting to accomplish something with their writing and doing a really poor job of it. That is crap. That is where you go to the writer, and the writer is, you know, and stuff like this gets published. A lot of it's by new writers where they are trying to achieve one type of fiction, and they have no skill at it yet. And there's nothing wrong with being like that, but it's, you know, using the word crap is so loaded. It's like going to a kid playing piano, and they're not doing a good job and saying, well, you're a crappy pianist. So, well, yes, they are, but that's not how you say it.
So you object to our connotations of using that in discourse and not so much saying I don't like something.
It's fine to say you don't like something. It's dismissing other people's opinion. And that mixed with us agreeing that our own genre, letting externally, you know, the people who don't like our genre define what in our genre is good. Those two things are what are bothering me, if that makes any sense. And, you know, I also do have something against the publishing it just because you think it will sell, when usually you're wrong. But that, you know, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon. Whenever, you know, some literary writer says, well, fantasy sells well, I'm going to condescend to write this because it will sell well. And it's usually pretty crappy because they're trying to do something they haven't read a lot of, and they don't know the genre of the discourse, and they're just assuming that it's going to be awesome because they're awesome. Those bother me. And so, but anyway, I don't want our community to dismiss 90% of what we're writing and what's being published just because it is not part of what we are looking for in writing.